So much.
Trust me.
You're listening to Meadows and Makers podcast.
With Jacked Up and Making Stuff. Peace.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast right here on the MSP Waves, this interactive social media broadcasting network. And I thank you all for joining me today and this morning and this week. It'll be a really great show for you. We've got returning guest Robbie Olson, and today we are going to do a show about everything you wanted to know about aquaponics, but were afraid to ask. Robbie is a great buddy of mine, and he has been my aquaponics mentor, and it is a technology that I think is going to help bring food abundance to the world and is really great for areas especially that have drought conditions. And it's just a really cool technology and a way of growing that can be scaled out on a large scale. And it's great to see a lot of people get their own backyard system started. That's one of the things that I'm really excited to try to bring to Steam is some content related to how to build your own backyard systems. And so I've got a recent series. If you go check out my Steam page, you can see I am documenting entire build of a backyard aquaponics system. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go check that out. And today with Robbie, he got started on Steam It a while back, and he's got busy. He's moved his entire system and everything like that. But he has an excellent primer on the background of getting a system started in aquaponics, and so go check out his page on Steam It. I know he's got great things coming in the future. We're going to talk about some of those things with him today. Right before we get the show going and Robbie comes on with me, we are all right. We're gonna have to do a little bit of troubleshooting here with Robbie. But right before he comes on, I want to do the disclaimer for the show today that the views and opinions that are expressed on this show are my own and those of my guests, and they do not reflect on MSP Waves and the wonderful people here that are keeping this whole thing going. So if you have any feedback, concerns, if you have any questions, please send them my way. And don't bother these wonderful people keeping the MSP Waves going. So that being said, I'm kind of a little bit of woo-woo stuff. I really think that we have the ability to project a positive future going and moving forward, and that we create the future with our focus and our attention. And so one of the things that I like to begin the show with is a motto that I have, is that I will be an inextinguishable light of possibilities for myself and others. And so that's a mantra that I keep for the show, and that's a mantra that I'd like to pass to others, just to hold in your heart and to hold in your consciousness, so that we can all move forward toward a brighter future. I'm not sure, Robbie, why you just went. You're having issues on your end. We did some pre-show checks and everything. But let's see. I don't know if maybe if you can disconnect and reconnect, and we'll try that. See if we can get something like that going. And let's see. I'm trying to figure this out here. All right, maybe try to disconnect. Sorry about this, folks. And reconnect. All right, let's see. But I'll go ahead while Robbie, we're trying to get Robbie back here. Let's see. I will bring up some of his stuff. So Robbie's been doing this aquaponics for a while. He's moved, like I said, and he's rebuilding this entire setup that he has. And he had I believe it was like a 20 foot by 40 foot greenhouse going, and he has a pretty large aquaponics system in that thing. And here's one of his past links, just to give you an idea on the type and the size of the system that he had going on, and what he's now working on building and rebuilding. So that's a little bit of an idea there. Let's see. All right, my mic is low, so let me work on that. Let me get that cranked up a little bit here. All right. So, yeah, today, if you guys have any questions about aquaponics, this is a show for education, to bring up any of those questions you guys may have. Sorry about that. I'm taking a little sip of coffee there. But thank you for joining. We got Bluefish Cookie Way. We got Torrico in the audience. We got Breeze in the audience. Crimson Clad El Gecko. Hypexis Spirals. Jody Pamunkus. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Patient Zero. Peachy Mod. Rondon. Thank you for joining. Yeah, let's see. Sound levels sounded better. So we got a little bit of technical issues this morning. There always seems to be when Robbie's coming on the show. Sometimes we get into some different subjects, and a little bit of the esoteric topics come up. But today we're going to try to focus on just the aquaponics. So let me see. I'm actually getting a call from Robbie right now. Hey, Robbie.
Man, I'm not getting anything. It's just not there no more.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, try.
Rondon says I'm not in a voice channel, but I'm exactly where I was earlier, so I don't.
Hey, all right. I see you popped in there. You just there you go. All right, cool. They moved you into on air with me.
I'm in, but all I'm getting is loud clicking pops here. There's no audio. It's just like this here. You hear that?
Yeah. Okay.
It's just so
All right. Well, we could just if you guys can you guys hear us with the phone and everything? Is that coming through okay? Yeah, somebody let me know in the chat room if that's coming through okay. Maybe we'll just roll like this. Sorry about this, guys. It's just had issues with he's a little
I don't
quiet.
understand it because we had it going earlier and it's exactly the same. So
Yeah, so you've got yourself deafened and muted right now.
yeah, because it's so loud on this side, it's just a bunch of noise. I can't hear anything. All I'm hearing is just loud popping noise, and so I have to turn it off.
Okay. All right.
Hang on a second. I can turn off the channel on the mixer and then turn this back on.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you can hear me. Can you hear me?
No, I'm not getting your voice through the Discord app anymore.
This is crazy. I don't understand how it was working earlier and then now it's just not.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's every time we get you on for a show, it's there's some kind of technical difficulties when we get into it. So
yeah.
So
I don't know.
So we can roll like this if that's cool, and then you can. It's a little bit quiet, so I'll probably turn myself up a little bit, and then we'll see if that works, and we'll just kind of roll with the punches, and we'll go from there, I guess. And sorry about this, guys. Uh-oh. Yeah, you popped in there for a second, but I got the same clicking noise.
Okay, hang on. So.
Yeah. I don't know, Rondon. Do you have any ideas about this? I don't know what's going on. And we had Joe.
I have no idea either. It was like I said, it was working great earlier when we tested it, and nothing has changed. I left it on, and I could hear you all the way up until you started the show, and then it just started that clicking just as soon as you started the show.
Oh, really? No way.
Yeah, so
weird.
Crazy.
All right. Well, people are saying they can clearly hear us, so we'll just move forward with this, and you can drop the links into the
right. I can still drop my pictures in, so
drop your pictures into the Discord chat and everything, and then we'll just roll from here. So, so how's everything going, man? Lots of stuff going on. We're talking about aquaponics today, and the clicking noise is me. What's going on? Leave and come back into voice. Okay. All right, we'll do that real quick. All right, how about that?
Oh wow, hang on.
How about that? I'm fixed. Okay, I fixed it. Okay.
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. All right.
Can you hear me through the microphone?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well I'm on at the phone.
All right. Yeah, we'll see if we can rock this. All right. And roll from here. I don't know.
Okay, so.
Okay. That sounds good.
Well, whatever it was. Yeah, on the aquaponics front, took me a while to get set back up because I moved and did a few things a little different this time around, but same basic kind of configuration.
All right, yeah.
I can get some pictures.
Yeah, you're a little quiet. Kind of faded out a little bit there on me.
Well, I was away from the mic, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so okay, you have this you're working with like a 20-foot by 40-foot greenhouse, and so you're working on that process of
Yeah, it's actually a 30.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
30, it's a 30 by 40 or something like that?
30 by 44, yeah, 30 by 40. Or 30 by 48, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, yeah, how's that whole process going? Do you have some update photos on where you're at with that?
Sure. Let me see if I can up here. I'll see. I put me a water rain catchment system in, off the greenhouse. So I just got the picture right here available, and I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, you told me about that recently. That you're capturing how many gallons of water?
Well, I've got 4 totes on the greenhouse, and then I have 2 other totes located somewhere else. And so at any given time, I'm catching 330 times 4. But I'm coming off the barn and the greenhouse for these 4 that I've got the picture there, and those 4 totes will fill up in about 30 minutes when it's coming a good rain. Your rain catchment is all about the square footage area of the roof it's coming off of.
Yeah.
So, the larger the roof area, the more rain you're going to catch. So.
Yeah. So when the water reaches, they just keep spilling over into each tank. Do they just all rise together, or how do you have that set up?
Yeah. If you look in that picture right there, you can see this white pipe down in the bottom. And what I've got there is I've got these totes connected together, and I have the valves open. And so it just acts like one big tank.
Okay.
So they all rise and drop at the same time. So when your water's pouring in there, it's flooding all 4 of them at one time.
Okay. So,
And,
yeah, maybe we can.
By doing that,
Sorry, yeah, I was gonna say you could talk about, why is it important to use rainwater in the beginning, or why is it important to start with that?
Well, your water's the critical element of your system when you set it up. And if you start out with city water, they use a lot of chemicals and stuff to purify the water in the city water. So it's going to have chlorine in it, it's going to have fluoride, it's going to have a number of different things. And it could possibly have, runoff, or even depending on the size of your city or area, you might even have pharmaceuticals in your city water. So if you just set you up a rain catchment system and start with that, you'll have good, fresh rainwater to start with, and you won't have to deal with all of the chemicals and things like that, because it will kill your fish. And the city, when they purify the water, they put all this stuff in there to kill the bacteria out of the water, and that's good for you drinking it, but it's not so good for bacteria culture when you're trying to establish a biofilter.
Right.
So,
Right. So using that rainwater, it really helps you kickstart kickstart your system, and it keeps any of the harmful contaminants that may be in your city water out of the system, which could affect the balance of the system getting started, right?
Right, because you're really natural ecosystem.
Yeah.
Of course, you're forcing it to operate, but it's natural in the way it's set up, in the way it operates.
Okay.
Uh,
So you have.
So you say
Go ahead.
it's as one of the comments here is we have tons of groundwater here. Um, you can use groundwater, but there again, just check it to make sure you don't have pesticides or runoff from, a pasture or something like that.
Okay. So, some guys that do this aquaponics stuff, do they use like UV filters, or do they use some kind of if you want to use city water, you can install some kind of like reverse osmosis filter or something like that to use it?
Well, you could. This is going to be extremely slow because it only does, a couple gallons at a time. That would be that'd be pretty tedious if you're trying to get together a couple thousand gallons
Yeah.
of water. And one of the things about aquaponics too is that you discover as you get involved in it that the volume of water is the key to making it stable. So you want to get a larger volume of water if you can. In other words, you try to get a minimum of 300 to 500 gallons going. And of course, I have a couple thousand going at any time.
Okay.
But if you have a very small system, it's going to fluctuate up and down more with the temperature of the water. As the temperature swings in the water, so does the pH, and the chemistry of the water changes up and down with the temperature of the water. And so the larger the body of water you have, the more stable the temperature is and the more stable the system is.
Okay. Yeah, so that was one of the things that I kind of learned on in establishing my first system, was that I would get spikes in pH that were going. I mean, I had a lot of different issues going on, and you kind of walked me through it. But maybe we could talk about some of the fundamentals, like what are the fundamentals to get a system started in the beginning? Like you need to be able to create that bacterial colony, like you just mentioned that.
Right.
And maybe talk.
And what you want to do is you'll want to set you up some kind of rain catchment first and get you some barrels or whatever and just catch you some water. And you can do it in aquariums. I actually have my breeding system right now is set up in aquariums. So I've got the aquariums set up in such a way that relates through them and then filters through the entire system. So I don't have a little small filter in the aquarium. I've got a little hole drilled in the glass, and I've got a pipe coming out of it so that it feeds into the main system.
Okay, so that would be step number one.
Yeah, the first thing you would want to do is catch you some water, and then you can get you some fish going. And if you're going to do it in an aquarium, you need to be able to cycle through your aquarium into your grow bed, into your filter tanks. And I've got, let me see if I can find my picture here. I've got some 50-gallon drums that I use for filtration tanks.
Okay, we just had a question come in from the audience from Quad Joe Bonsu asked, how often do you recycle the nutrients? And he just mentioned that he did some work with an undergraduate project work on growing lettuce in a crackety hydroponic system with different levels of humic acid.
Right now, aquaponics is different than hydroponics. Hydroponics, they try to keep it very clean and sterile, and then you have to add nutrients uh, into the uh, solution in order to feed the plants. In an aquaponics system, the fish are going to create waste, and then that waste is going to go into a biofilter, and the biofilter has bacteria that consumes the waste and creates the nutrients that the plants use. So the bacteria will create the nitrates and phosphates that the plants need. Now, you really don't need to be adding anything to an aquaponics system fertilizer wise. Now, there's one thing that you have to add that you can't get out of the fish waste, and that is iron. So you have to add some chelated iron into the system, and you can add some calcium carbonate, which is natural, and that puts calcium into the system. But as far as nutrients go, you don't have any recycling of the nutrients because the nutrients are being created and consumed all the time, and they're in all the water uh, at all times.
Okay, I hope that answered your question, Quad. I was going to say the first part of your name, but if you have other questions, chime in. Robbie is a wealth of knowledge here, and so yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. You were talking about your 55-gallon drums, I guess, is what we got to.
Yeah, you have 50s, and then I'm going to drop a picture right the 55-gallon drums. I'll have these wagon wheel um, biofilter things, and what'll happen is the bacteria, the nitrobacter and nitrosoma bacteria will create a colony on these little surface areas of these things, and you put a uh, aeration stone down in this barrel along with these little uh, chunks of plastic there, and the bacteria will then clean the water as it comes through. It'll consume all of the ammonias, and you can see in my picture right there. I've got a 55-gallon drum, and water comes in at the bottom, and then there's a pipe that goes down and out, and it's connected at the top up there, and I have little slits in the pipe there. It's a T, and I have caps on the ends and little slits to keep the little wagon wheel things from going down into the other tank. But,
Okay.
It's real simple, and all of this stuff is gravity fed. You want to try to minimize your pumps down to one if you can, and have this thing set up so that it feeds off of one pump. You need to be able to feed your grow beds and all of your tanks off of one pump. So you'll set up a gravity feed system and some bell siphon on your grow beds in order to do that. But
Okay, so yeah, maybe we can. So once it leaves the filtration, coming from that, you start off with a solids filter, and then you're moving on to an additional step with this biofilter, where you're aerating part of it. And so, what's the significance of that aeration? Why is that important?
well, you need to have an air stone in with your biofilter um, because your beneficial bacteria that consumes the ammonia um, are aerobic in nature. In other words, they use oxygen um, in order to thrive. So if you have a lot of oxygen in there, a lot of air, then those bacteria are going to thrive. If you don't have air in there, you will still have some of those bacteria, but what will happen is the bottom part of the tank will begin to get a colony of anaerobic bacteria, and they'll consume up all the oxygen, put off CO2, and that layer will get thicker and thicker, and eventually it'll overtake the tank. And when that happens, you're not getting any biofiltration because all of your beneficial bacteria has been taken over or consumed by the anaerobic bacteria.
Okay.
And so you'll want to put an air stone in the tank with the biofilter just to rotate the media around that the bacteria is living on, and to give it oxygen so that the bacteria can thrive. And it keeps the anaerobic bacteria at bay. You know, you're going to have some, but it'll settle down in the very bottom, and it'll keep it under control.
Okay.
And you know, I put air stones everywhere. I put them in the fish tanks. I put them in um, the biofilter tank, and then sometimes I'll put them in the sump tank if I have to. But the new design that I have, the water is circulating so much in the sump tank that I don't have to worry about putting the stone in there. It's creating a lot of oxygen.
Okay. Yeah, that is a huge element. Is that I was watching one of my favorite YouTube channels is a little channel called My Little Homestead. They're not little; they're getting pretty big, but they're building all these earth bag houses out in the desert. I think they're in Arizona, but they are experimenting with an aquaponics system. And in one of their most recent videos, they were seeing the fish gulping for air at the surface. Well, they were gulping toward the surface of the water, and so they realized that they needed more air or more oxygen in the water, and had to add some additional air stones. So
Right, yeah, and I always put air stones in the fish tanks themselves. Um, you know, and you try to get your water to circulate if you can. But now I just popped up a picture there of my sump tank. So you see the two pipes there. Uh, Actually, there's three. There's a large 4-inch pipe, and then there's a 2-inch pipe off to the side. And the 2-inch pipe is coming out of this tank that I've got above. It's got the pipe going down with a valve. That is
okay.
that is the second pump that I have in that blue barrel there, so that if the weather's cold outside, I can shut off the outside part and just keep the water circulating inside. But that pump is not operational right now. The water's feeding through the biofilter and then through this blue barrel, and then it dumps out into this sump tank that I have buried in the ground right here. And if you look, you can see I have a pump down in the water, and that pump goes up and splits off and goes back to the fish tanks, and then goes to the grow beds at the same time. In the grow beds, the large pipe is the water dump from the grow beds.
Yeah, Crimson Cloud just she complimented you on your grow beds. So you built these nice little uh, stands for the grow beds, which are full of type of stone, correct?
Right. I took a wooden frame, and I'm going to throw it to. Uh, I've got it showing a picture of it upside down where I painted. But what I did is I just built a little mini floor system on posts, basically, and then built a box on top, and then put a food grade liner in it, and put a one of those. It's not a uniseal. I forget the name of the doggone thing, but
It's like a
big old,
bulkhead fitting.
fitting bulkhead fitting. Yeah, there you go. So you put the bulkhead fitting in. It's got a rubber seal on it, so it just seals right down to the. You can see the hole in that picture there
Yeah.
where the bulkhead fitting goes, and you see how the thing's made. It's real simple. It's just a little
Yeah.
miniature floor system built out of 2x4s, and I've got those 2x4s on 12-inch center because it is a lot of weight.
Yeah.
The stone weighs a lot. And then
And then
once
you
you
have
get the
your exit in the center.
right, have the exit in the center, and I will show you a picture here in just a second. I've got one loading now that's got the thing showing it upright. Um, yeah, here's the second one that comes up. Will show the bell siphon in the center with the gravel in there. So you can see there how it's just flipped over. And I put the little rails on the bottom. I've made these posts the same height and then put the little rails on the bottom there because it makes it easier to level out.
Oh,
You want
okay.
to get the grow bed level when you set the thing up. You want to get it level and then put your stone in it because once you put the stone in, that joker, you're not going to be able to move it.
Yeah. So what kind of stone are you using in these gravel beds? And maybe you could talk about that bell siphon. Do you like that bell siphon? Is there do you notice any issues that come up with your bell siphon over time, or does it stay pretty stable?
Well, it stays. It's operational. It's very stable. And the only problem you run into is that as your plants grow and they get real dense in the grow bed, the roots will get around the barrier pipe that you have in there. If you look at that picture there, you see that big pipe. That's a 6-inch piece of pipe, and it has slits cut in it. And in the center of that pipe is empty, and that's where your bell goes down in there. And you have to allow for the water to run in there, um, free of any obstruction. So over time, you have to reach down in there in that area right there and clean the roots and stuff out.
All right.
But that's usually just about once or twice per season.
All right.
So now, as far as the gravel goes, you can get yourself in a world of hurt if you put the wrong gravel in, because your system will be doing all kind of pH flip flop. So whatever grow bed material you use, you have to make sure it's going to be pH neutral. And you can do it real simple. You can get a little jar of vinegar and put your stones in the jar of vinegar, and if you see bubbles coming off the stones, then you know that the vinegar is reacting with the stone. And the reason I say use vinegar is because it's slightly acidic, and your system, when it starts building up CO2, will have a certain amount of carbonic acid in it, and if your stone reacts to that, then it'll be changing the pH. And I think you had to run in with that, didn't you?
Yeah, I was experimenting with using aircrete in my aquaponics system, and I kept I kept taking my pH readings, and I was spiking weight in the alkaline range. And we talked a lot back and forth, and comes to turn out it's the water interacting with the, I guess, the lime in the concrete, and if it's not totally sealed off in the system, then it's gonna the water interacting with that lime is gonna make you go super alkaline in your system.
That's exactly right. If you look at these two pictures, the one with the grow bed standing straight up where it's empty, if you see the gravel on the ground, That's kind of a limestone kind of gravel, but the gravel in the bed is a river stone.
Now, is that stuff pretty
And
cheap? Can you pick that up like by the trailer load or something? And
oh yeah, well yeah, I just went down to my local building supply place, and I think it was like $60 was enough for me to get to fill up a whole grow bed. And
oh,
these
okay.
grow beds are 2.5 feet by 12 feet, so that's a good volume of gravel, foot deep, 2.5 feet wide and 12 feet long. So,
Okay. Is there a certain
but
size of Riverstone that you're targeting?
well, yeah, you don't want a river stone, uh, simply because your grow bed is going to be um, a biofilter in and of itself. And if you have large stones, you'll have large cavities, everywhere, and so you won't get as much uh, filtration going on there. But there, on the same token, you don't want to have it too small because you don't want it to be compact where the water won't drain away. So I try to get stone about the size of my fingernails. You look at your fingernails, around that size is about the ideal size. You don't want to get some big old honking 2-inch round rocks, or at the same time, you don't want stuff real fine, little bitty tiny stuff.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned the rocks are another biofiltration step in the beneficial bacteria are they're building on that surface area, right?
Right. You're gonna have bacteria is gonna colonize the entire system. Anywhere there's a surface area it can grow, it's gonna grow. Um, now I do a biofilter tank before I even get to the grow beds because I want to remove the solid. Now, there's a lot of people out there that'll tell you just to go straight from the sump tank or the fish tank, straight into this grow bed, and you don't want to do that. You'll learn the hard way that that thing is a maintenance nightmare because you have to clean it out all the time, get the sludge out of the bottom because it builds up, and especially the fish solids, the solid poop waste of the fish,
Yeah.
and you can put worms in there to help mitigate some of that, but you're going to have a small population of fish if you do that, and it's still going to build up on you. So, over years of messing with it, I come to realize that if you can remove those solids on the front side and you can get the real tiny little particles, that'll filter through the system, you're going to be way ahead of the curve on it.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's
you.
the way.
Sorry. Go ahead.
That's just something that I would definitely recommend. And I'm throwing in my solid swirl tank, and it's just a 55-gallon drum, and your water comes out of your fish tank down into the bottom of the 55-gallon drum, and then you have what's called a stand pipe that comes up to the top of the drum, and you can see on the picture there, you can see how the water's running down the pipe.
Yep.
Actually, this is the other third tank, but principle's the same. The water comes in the bottom, the solids then settle in the bottom, and then the clear water exits down the pipe, and that pipe then feeds into the biofilter tank, and then
Yes. So
that
you're
water
using
rises again.
so you're using three different filtration tanks, huh?
Yes, yes. 3 different filtration tanks. You have a solids removal tank at the beginning, then you have the biofilter, and then you have the settling tank or the secondary sump. You could call it either one, but that's just a final stage, just to get the little bitty stuff, to settle out at the bottom. and then it goes from there to the sump tank, the large sump tank, and then from there feeds out to the grow bed and back to the fish.
Ah,
And
okay.
and what this does is it allows you to set it up so that you can shut off parts of it at any given time and work on it. Um, like if I wanted to shut off my grow beds, I can just turn a valve and shut the water off to the grow beds, and it'll still be circulating to the fish. Or vice versa, if I need to shut the water off to the fish, I can do that, still be circulating to the grow bed.
Oh, okay. That
Um,
was going to be one of my questions is why you use the split system where you circulate some to the grow bed and then some to the main fish tank. So it's a maintenance thing.
yeah, well, the split system is designed so that you can have one pump. And with that one pump, you can feed all the grow beds and all the fish tanks, and it minimizes your use of power because the pump is the Achilles heel of an aquaponics system. If your water's not flowing, then the system doesn't operate the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, and you and I have talked about going off grid. With having if you're really going to be resilient, you want to be off grid. So you want to have one pump and minimize your power footprint so that you could run it off of a solar panel or something.
Yep.
And then that way, if the power can go off all at once, and you're still good to go.
Right. Right. A solar or just a microgrid system where you have solar and a genset and maybe windmill, hydropower, just kind of mix different energy options so that you're super hardened.
Right, and you have the ability to weather through something if the was to have to.
Right. Yep. So so yeah, you're not depending on anything external right now except for the grid power as your system stands.
Right, that's the only thing right now is I'm still tied to the grid. Now I
And
do
and your
have a
and your
battery
fish
backup
food too
system.
as well, I guess.
Yeah, now your fish food is that can be mitigated as well because you can grow black soldier fly larvae. You can grow crickets. You can grow waterborne um, plants because the fish. I use tilapia, blue tilapia, because they're omnivores and because they're real hardy. Um, so you can get to a point where you can be off the grid with the power and completely not dependent on any fish feed as well.
Okay. Yeah, have you experimented with some of this stuff? What do you think about worms and feeding them worms too?
Um, well, some worms now. Red wings thrive in those grow beds. If you put them in there, they just take off. The
Okay.
big earthworms, they don't do so well. But the little red wigglers that are about 2 inches, 3 inches long, those things they love those grow beds,
Hmm.
and they will thrive in there. So you could do the worms, but I can tell you that the fish, you start feeding them, the high protein fish food, they kind of get spoiled on that, and believe it or not, they'll be picky and won't eat worms.
Really?
Yeah, so it's crazy.
Interesting.
uh,
But they still
yeah.
eat they still eat crickets and the soldier fly larvae.
Well, they'll eat. Now they eat mosquitoes and stuff too. So that's another thing. Like that big, large tank that I've got buried in the ground. Um, that thing, uh, I'll put a few fish down in there, just 3 or 4, and I won't even feed those fish because they'll eat the algae and they'll eat every bug that hits the water.
Nice.
And so you don't have any mosquitoes or anything like that. And so I will take, if I have any like open barrels or anything around the house where I'm collecting water, I'll actually put 1 or 2 fish in each of those barrels, and just let them eat up the bugs.
They'll just be self-sufficient in there, just eating all the bugs and algae that grow.
Self-sufficient. Right. And with something like that, if you've only got 1 or 2 fish, you don't have to worry about putting a stone in it or anything like that, because they're not going to consume so much oxygen that they're going to require one.
Huh.
And at the same time, you're getting fresh rainwater in it pretty routinely, and you're taking, in my case, I take water out of those barrels and put them into my, or use it to feed my raised grow beds outside.
Yeah. So you're draining off some of the nutrients and some of the solids from that fall to the bottom periodically as well.
Right. And just, if you've got 1 or 2 fish, it's not going to build up too bad on you. However, I wouldn't take a 55-gallon drum and throw 200 fish in it, because you'll have dead fish everywhere in no time.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just got another question from the audience. Bluefish Cookie Wave Torrico asks, do you ever worry about the weather destroying your plants?
Well, on the exterior stuff, like this picture I've got popped up here, weather's always a concern. But I keep all of my aquaponics inside a greenhouse, so it's indoors. And, it's outside, but it's covered in such a way that, hard rain or something like that don't have a chance to get in there and beat it up.
Yeah, wow. These are kicking, man. These are brand new, huh? Those weren't there the last time I was at your place.
Yeah, these were in my old, and they were just sitting around back piled up last time you were here. So while we were waiting on the greenhouse to get set up, we moved those around and went and got some soil from across the driveway there and did some conditioning and put that joker in there. But it's doing pretty good.
Is Torrico asked, is that squash in the metal tub?
Yes, it is, zucchini. And then the other one, right down there where the lighter leaves, that's squash as well. Those are little yellow crookneck.
Wow, that all looks like it's really doing well.
Yeah, on the soil side of things, I feed my soil plants fish water.
Yep.
So, they thrive. Of course, you want to do some soil conditioning too, and I put a thing of peat moss in there and did a little bit of blood meal and some bone meal, but we didn't use any non-natural fertilizer.
My goodness, that fish water does some amazing stuff. It is quite miraculous. I've used it on some plants that I've had going, and they brought them back to life. I had some transplanted plants, some thornless blackberries and some goji berries. I moved, from the city place, and it's brought them back to life. It's incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, the plants just love it. And you can even do. I'm going to throw a picture up here, right here. These. Well, let me get it. But there's a picture of the aquaponics grow bed that's going to pop up here in a minute, and we have cuttings off of tomato plants. You can take the suckers that you cut off the tomato plants and just stick it down in the grow bed of the aquaponics, and it'll reroot and turn into a new plant. So you can clone the crap out of some plants with these things.
Wow.
So
Is that any variety of tomato?
yeah, pretty much any variety of tomato. And you can see this picture here that I just popped in. These are some where I did cuttings off of the tomatoes in the picture above, and I just stuffed it down in the dirt. I mean, down in the gravel right there, and it takes them a few days, but they'll root and turn into new plants.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of plants will do. We've noticed that the aquaponics is like a cloning machine. You know, you can just clone a lot of stuff with it.
I've noticed that as well. There's another aquaponics person here on Steemit. I think her name is like a gay gardener, but she's in Asia, or she may be either Australia or somewhere in Asia. There's another guy I recently came across that's in Malaysia, that's doing aquaponics. But yeah, she's told me they routinely take plants from their aquaponics and transplant them into soil. And it works great. I did that with some cabbage from the aquaponic system as I disassembled it and moved it and planted it in some soil, and it's doing fantastic.
Yeah, greens of aquaponic.
Yeah.
And I've grown pretty much just about anything you can think of in there. Squash, peas, corn. The problem I ran into with the corn is that it got so big it was literally hitting the top of my greenhouse, and I had to pull it out of there because it was massive.
Wow, I bet the roots are just like
You know,
huge on that thing too.
yeah, and flowers really love aquaponics as well, especially those like elephant ears and plants like that. Man, I mean, we had in one of our beds on our previous setup, we had an elephant ear that we planted in there just to try to salvage it and bring it back. And the thing was massive. I mean, the leaves were literally 2.5 to 3 feet long and 1.5 feet wide.
Wow.
So they really like it.
Yeah, so you have some special things that you do when that water enters that media bed. You have you have the water enter into a little clay pot before, and then it gets distributed out to the rest of the bed. Why do you do that?
Right. Well, there's a couple of reasons I do that. Number one, if it just dumps out right onto the gravel, then you're going to get this algae. It's going to grow right on the gravel, right on that spot, and it's just kind of messy. And the pot allows the water to swirl around so that when you dump the water out into the pot, it creates air bubbles, and so it helps oxygenate the water. And then lastly, you can, if you need to add something like chelated iron or calcium carbonate, you can put it in that pot right there, and the swirling water around will help mix it up so that it don't get stagnant and hit just one spot and get stuck in the gravel.
Okay.
Because I noticed when I added calcium carbonate to the system there, that a lot of times it would fall down in the rocks right there, and it wouldn't move. Now, the water going across it is going to help dissolve it, but you want to try to stir that stuff up and get it distributed out if you can. So, anyway, I just find it's neater and cleaner, and it helps oxygenate the water. So,
Okay. Yes.
you want to use a clay pot now. It's got to be pH neutral. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, and those last very long, or they'll last a long time in your system too.
yeah.
Yeah, so CryptoPie asks, so these are just growing on pebbles with nutrient water. It's actually using the waste from the fish in the system, and what we were talking about earlier is that beneficial bacteria helps convert that fish waste into usable nutrients for the fish, or sorry, for the plants.
Right. Right. Yeah. So you'll wind up with high concentrations of nitrates, nitrogen, and phosphorus. And so by putting the plants in there, it mitigates that. And also the grow bed helps to clarify the water to make it good and clear. Um,
Yep.
but you can do it without the grow beds now. Just have the strict aquaculture and keep the water clear by putting the 3 barrels in there I was describing earlier.
Okay.
So
Yes.
basically, all I'm doing is creating a small aquaculture system, and then I'm just patching in the aquaponics, the grow beds, into that, and you have happy fish, you'll have happy plants.
Yeah. So Breeze just asked. She missed part of the show, and she's asking what kind of fish you're using. It's blue tilapia, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I use a. See if I can find some pictures here.
And the tilapia you chose because they're really hardy, right? They handle like a large range of pH levels and temperature swings, and also they're omnivorous. They can eat both plants and protein.
Right, right. It's really a good fish to have in your system. And if you're first starting out, I would recommend using tilapia because it's the learning curve can be a little tricky sometimes. Uh, and your fish, you don't want some specialty fish that has to have a very specific condition um, when you're first starting out because you're going to make little mistakes and this, that, and the other until you learn how to tweak the system to get the pH where you want it and everything else. So, you know, there's a large number of things you could grow in the aquaponic system. You can grow virtually any fish, but get a fish that's real hardy at the beginning. Um, because the tilapia, they're very hardy fish. So I would recommend that highly.
Yeah, yeah, they can really weather, when you're a beginner and doing this, they can weather the your mistakes and they can live through them pretty amazingly. And so I see you put up
Yeah.
a picture of your aquarium. Now you have these aquariums so that you can do the breeding, right?
Right. Now, I have totes that I put bulk of the fish in, but these aquariums, you can see the fish, and I'll have a male and two or three females, and I'll put a clay pot in the aquarium. And when you get the pH at around 7.1 or so, then the fish, well, and the water temperature is in the mid 70s, then the fish will switch over into a breeding mentality, and they'll start breeding. And tilapias are mouth brooders, so the male will take up the flower pot, and kind of that's like his bachelor pad, and so he'll corral his female companion over into the pot, and she'll put her eggs down, and then he'll come by and fertilize them, and then she'll pick them back up, and she'll hold on to the eggs until they hatch and turn into fry. So what'll happen is you'll come out one day and you'll notice that you'll have a fish that's puffing and it looks like it's smoking a cigar or something, and that fish won't eat when you put food in the tank, and you know that is a mama fish that has eggs. And so what I do then is I take a secondary 10-gallon tank that I call a nursery tank, and I catch that mama and I put her in that nursery tank by herself. and just let her do her thing, and she'll eventually spit those things out. And they'll be little bitty fry fish. Now you don't want to take her out immediately right after they spit them out, because there for about another day or two, she will take the fish back into her mouth and protect them. And so she has this natural antibody in her system that protects those little fish. And so if you take the mama away too soon, then you'll have a larger die off of the fry fish.
Wow, yeah. So we're talking about that earlier, and so how many fry can you get from one female?
Well, this small one, like I hear, she's about 4 inches long, and she'll average probably 500 to 700 at one time. And then when they get large, when they get several pounds and they're 12 inches long, they can do upwards of 2,000 at a time.
Wow, that's incredible.
So they're really prolific breeders.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And watch, when
incredible.
you get them together, you can really increase your amount of fish you have.
Yeah.
Of
So
course, you saw last year how many I had.
oh yeah, yeah. So do you have like
I had to start over.
yeah? So do you have like a schedule that you're gonna do your replacements of the fish and just try to really optimize the growth of the fish and keep replacing them?
Are you talking about rotating stock of the fish?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have a certain amount of die off no matter what, and of course, your idea here is you want to have some you can harvest to eat.
Yep.
But I don't really have a set schedule on the thing, at least not at this point, because I've just got set back up again, and I'm trying to build my population and my fish back up. And once I get my population density up real high, then yeah, I want to get into some kind of schedule where I can rotate them out of the tanks, because you wind up 2,000 fish in a 300-gallon tank. You better have some massive filtration going on.
Yeah.
You'll have some problems.
Yeah.
But, of course, that's an incredibly high dense population there. I definitely wouldn't recommend people going into that kind of density right at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you really know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, keep your density down, because once you get into those high density situations, you have to have. If you don't have those separation tanks and those biofilters in place, and the pump's not running, that pump shuts off and it's not on for more than 15 or 20 minutes. You'll have dead fish everywhere.
Yeah.
With that kind of population. So,
Yeah. That's no fun.
Keep it to a minimum. At the beginning, maybe have 40, 50 fish, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. If you're doing a backyard
if-
aquaponics system.
Right. If you're doing like the first one and you've got a tote, an IBC tote, keep it down to 40, 50 fish when you start out, and don't go crazy with it, because you build a system right off the bat and you've never done it before, and you dump 300, 400 fish in that tote, then you're going to wind up killing most of them off before you get the hang of what's going on.
Yep. Well, we got another question in the audience that Big Tom brought up a minute ago. He said, have you ever tried shellfish or shrimp?
I haven't, but I've been looking, and the shellfish or shrimp or crayfish would be something really good to put in sump tanks, or in the bottom of a hard shell fish tank. The thing you would have to watch out for when you get into the crayfish or shellfish is going to be your liner, whatever it is you're using, make sure it's something that's not easily punctured. And I have seen people come out and build like a wooden box and throw plastic liner in it, and you can do that. But if you ever get a hole in that plastic, you're going to be in trouble. And those little boogers, they're constantly clawing at stuff and gnawing around on the bottom. So if you've got a hard surface tank, like the tote, you'll be fine. But I haven't gotten into that yet. But yes, I definitely am going in that direction, because those little jokers, they'll sit down there and clean up what waste doesn't get picked up by the water movement. And,
yeah.
You got some really, really clear water then.
Yeah, and they're delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So yeah, you've kind of tumbled down the rabbit hole with this stuff for a while, and one of the other really interesting things you figured out was something about water vortexing. Could you talk about that a little bit, and why that you think that's pretty significant?
well, I got into some stuff where I ran across Victor Schauberger and read up on some of his stuff, and it's really fascinating stuff. The way he talked about how vortexing water would do certain things, and it would structure water, and it just creates a lot of different things. And I've noticed that if you have spinning water, it's a lot more aerated too, so you have a lot higher oxygen content if it's spinning. So the trick is to get it spinning. And so what you'll want to do is on your pipes and stuff, you want to try to use, especially on the drain pipes, anywhere possible, use the sweep fittings so that it don't come to this abrupt 90, so the water kind of backs up when it hits this abrupt 90. Now, you have to have the abrupt 90s on the bell siphon, otherwise it won't work. But when the water is draining away and coming down the sump, I try to do large sweeps on the pipes so that the water can naturally go around the curve of that thing, and one side being a little bit longer than the other cause water to kind of flip over the top of itself, and it'll rotate.
Okay.
And the amount of oxygen that comes out of that is just unbelievable. It's you can really oxygenate the water, and that eliminates your need for more power as well. So because anywhere you can eliminate power, like we were talking about with the off-grid stuff, the better off you're going to be. And plus, we could talk about the structured water, but I'm not knowledgeable enough on the structured water to go into any kind of detail about it. But
Okay. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's just part of helping to really keep the oxygenation high.
right.
Um,
One of these guys are saying they can't hear anything.
yeah, they're working on it. I guess we're still good on the website, but they're having issues in Discord right now. So we'll just keep on rolling with what our talk
I see.
with what we're
Okay.
just saying here. And so we had a question a little bit ago from Bree. She asked, what type of sicknesses do you need to watch for in the tanks?
What kind of sicknesses? I haven't had any real major problems with that, and you definitely don't want to use antibiotics because that'll kill off your bacteria. But now, if you do get a fish that gets some kind of sickness where their eyes are bulging, they're just bulging out of their head, you need to take that fish out of your system immediately because you don't want it spreading to other fish. you want to encourage bacteria growth in your system, but you want the right bacteria. You want the beneficial bacteria, and you don't want some runaway other bacteria. Now, other than that, I haven't seen anything. Now, I have seen CO2 poisoning, and I have seen oxygen deficiency. And with the CO2 poisoning or ammonia poisoning, where you don't have your filtration set up, and with the ammonia poisoning, the fish will bleed by their gills. You'll see, and underneath some of their scales. And if you see that in your system, you see any blood on your fish, then you've got an ammonia problem or you've got a CO2 problem.
Okay.
And but I haven't run across. I guess it's just because of the filtration method that I do. I haven't run across any really problematic um, diseases. Of course, now again, I'm breeding my own fish. Now, if I were bringing fish in from an outside source, that might be a different story. I might have to be more concerned about it. Um,
Okay.
if you if you suspect that your fish might have a problem, the main thing you need to do is put them in an isolation tank that's not hooked to the system, and then treat them in that tank and make sure that they're completely healed or whatever before they go back into the population.
Okay.
So, and that's really difficult to do, to spot things like that if you're working out of a tote.
Right.
You know, so the benefit that I have with my system is that it's all tied together. So the totes, the aquariums, everything is all one body of water. So I can look in the aquarium and see what's going on with my water, and that what's happening in my aquarium is an indication of what's happening everywhere in my system.
Okay. That's great. That's a great tip. Yeah, so that kind of leads me into one of the other questions I had for you was where did you source all your research? Were you just pulling from random things? Did you go look up articles from? I know there was a school for this in the Virgin Islands, I believe. Did you pull up any of their paperwork on this? What were some really good sources that you
I
had?
looked at things. Uh, I had done a lot of research from a lot of different areas, and I did look at that one from the Virgin Islands, and there's another one like the University of Kentucky, and then there's some guys out in Colorado that are doing it, commercially, and they do classes and stuff. But some of these guys that are doing it commercially, you have to be kind of careful of, because they'll tell you just enough to get you involved and show you things, and it looks fantastic, but then they omit certain little pieces of information, and you'll be struggling trying to figure out, how do you balance your pH, or how do you do this, that, and the other. And it's just one little piece of information that they just didn't tell you, like the calcium carbonate. Uh, that was just something I came on something else, and I really came into the main information when I came across a book on greenhouse management, and it had all of the workings of the biological systems, and that set it off for me, because you have to understand the biology of the microbes in order to be able to tweak the systems and do what you want to do with it. Now, I can tell you how to build a system and give you the steps on how to put it together, but if the balance gets out a little bit, you won't know why if you don't understand the biology. And it's really not as complicated as you would think it would be. It's just a matter of understanding that you have to have conditions so that the beneficial bacteria can thrive, and you have to keep your anaerobic bacteria at bay. And that's generally done through pH. If your pH drops down real low into the acidic range, you're going to be highly anaerobic. And the anaerobic bacteria is going to come along and rob all the oxygen away from everything it comes across, the nitrogen included. So nothing will live, not even the plants.
Yeah,
I was going to see if I could find some
yeah. As
of my
with
pictures here.
everything, I can't remember who I was listening to, but it was oh, okay. It was one of the creators I really like to follow. His name is Jamie Mansell, but he recently did a talk about how he knows how to do so many things, and he got into a story about how he was going to this class, and he was he it was a physics course, and he basically got into it with his teacher. His teacher thought he was cheating because he wasn't using the same formulas and everything like that, but he understood the basic fundamental concepts, and he explained to the teacher that all relates to force equals mass times acceleration, and so he can he derived off of that just based on the fundamental knowledge. He derived everything else to solve all the equations, and so so he said the moral of the story is to have that start at the foundation of what you're trying to learn, and understand the concepts, and understand the root of everything, and then you can get creative, and you can think and put together things that maybe it's not just you can start inventing different pieces to the system and start playing with it after you know the very foundation of the fundamental concepts.
Right, right. And it's not complicated. Said you just have you understand the basics of the nitrogen cycle and how the nitrogen cycle works, and then understand the basics of how the bacteria reacts with the nitrogen cycle. And then once you know that, then you can say, oh, well, geez, if I put the water over here, this is going to happen. Or if I do this, that's going to happen. And it's really, it's not complicated. It's just, it does have a learning curve because it's not something that is intuitive, so.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and I think aquaponics. A lot of the folks are saying. Breeze was saying she needs to come take some firsthand training with you, to go visit you and do some firsthand training. That is part of your vision, right? Is to get some workshops going, and then Toriko mentioned that there's something called Grow House, and their course is $300.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the gripes that I had about the guys out in Colorado. They had these really expensive courses, and I actually bought their book and did the little course, and I couldn't get my system to work for nothing. But they didn't go into any detail about the media. They didn't tell you the stuff that we even talked about here about how the media can change the pH. They didn't talk about the calcium carbonate. They just said, "Oh, you need to maintain a pH of this," and they didn't go into any detail about it. And they were taking their fish tank and putting the pump in the fish tank and pumping it right up into that grow bed, and using the grow bed as a media filter. And you can certainly do that.
Yeah,
But good God, I mean, if you build one of these systems, and this is one of the first, well, it was about the third one that I built, was one of those where you take the tote and you cut the bottom off or the top, and you flip it upside down, and you'll set the grow bed on top of the tote, and you'll have the fish tank down below it. Put the pump down there, and you pump straight up to the grow bed above. And it just has a little bell siphon that drains right back down into the fish tank. And this was when I ran across that. That was put out by a guy that's got a PhD, and he runs a big, massive operation up north somewhere, and put out this course on how to put these things together. Never went into any of the details about how that would go septic or anything. And I think I paid like $70 for this thing, to put this thing together, and it was an utter disaster.
Right.
If you have more than just 5 or 6 fish in there, the thing's going to go septic on you in no time flat. I came out there, and when I first did it, first couple of weeks, everything was just growing great because I had plenty of water. And then I came out there one morning, and everything was dead, wilted over. Things smelled like a sewage tank, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I had to completely drain the thing out. All the fish were dead, and just start all over again, and take all the gravel out, and bleach all that down because it stunk so bad it was unbelievable. And so you got guys out there selling that as how to build these things. And that's when I realized, I said, I've got to go on an information quest here and figure out how this is done, because if I'm depending on these jokers to tell me how it's done, all I'm going to do is spend a bunch of money.
Yeah. And be spinning your wheels in all the wrong directions. Yeah.
Yeah. And I ran across a guy from Australia.
Murray Hallam?
He had a website. No, not him. He's one of those that puts out the courses too, and his system has what they call the chop and the chop 2.
Okay.
And, hang on just a second.
Okay, so while you're checking that out, actually we had a clarification on that grow house thing. It wasn't grow house with that course. It was an affiliate or something. But then we had Sunravel Me say give us some information about grow house. It's a greenhouse in the middle of a food desert in Denver, and they're trying to bring sustainability to an impoverished part of the city. Sounds like a really cool project. So, clarification on that.
It does.
And it looks like yeah, so with these aquaponics things, you just have to I think it is about obtaining the fundamentals is very important.
Right. And like I was telling you about the Marham guy, or whatever his name is, he's got that chop system. And the chop system is a constant height, one pump is what it's supposed to be. But the setup is just unbelievable, because they take the water that comes out of the fish tank and they dump it straight into the sump tank. No filter, nothing. And then they take a pump and they run water from the sump tank to both the fish tank and the grow beds. So you're literally getting the nasty fish water dumping right down on top of the pump and then pumping right back to the fish with no filtration. And the solids build up in the bottom of that sump tank would just be unbelievable. It would just build up and build up and build up. So anyway, I'd ran across another guy, and he had a web page or a website called Earthen Group, and he was building a large aquaponics system in Dubai. And this guy was the one that turned me on to the filtration. When he started talking about these filters and everything, and I said, oh crap, so I can do a solids filtration on the front side of this thing. I can mitigate all these problems. So that's the way I do it now, and I wouldn't dare build a system without a solids catchment tank at the front, because it just eliminates all your problems. You put that swirl tank in there, and you're going to catch all the nasty solids right there, and it's going to sit there and capture all of the anaerobic stuff into that one tank. Or not all of it, but the vast majority of it's going to get caught up in that solids removal tank. And then you can send that stuff over to another tank, which is called a digester, and put air in it, and it'll digest down, and all of the solids will turn out to just be this nutrient-rich slurry that you can then dump back into the system without the anaerobic bacteria. I've actually wrote a little book thing, and I cover all of this stuff in there. Talk about how all this stuff functions and how it's designed to function.
Yeah,
Um,
is that ready to go? Is that I know you're working on a PDF kind of book. Are you also
yeah, I
gonna
actually have
create
all of
a?
that information ready to go, but I don't have the build. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. It cut off there for a second. I don't have the design build part of it done, but I have all of the other stuff. And this little image I just popped up there is for the bell siphon, so you can see how that works as well. So when
Oh,
your water
nice.
comes in, it goes into the gravel, and then it hits this 6-inch pipe here, and the water pours through the slots that are cut in the pipe,
Yeah.
and then it'll fill up to the standpipe, the top of that. And because you have the little bell over it with the 3-inch pipe, the cap,
Right.
then as it starts to fall down the pipe, it creates an air pocket up there at the top. And once that air pocket gets pushed down that tube, it creates a suction, and then it'll suck all the water out of that grow bed until it gets down to the bottom here, and then it'll bell siphon will shut off, and it'll start again.
Now, is there a standard rule for creating a successful bell siphon? Like, is there a good ratio between the size of the inner pipe and the
Yeah,
outer one?
there is. I've experimented with a bunch of different setups, and the one that works best is to use a 1.5-inch middle pipe, a 3-inch bell, and then a 6-inch sleeve, cover to keep the or media shield.
Okay.
And basically what you have is a ratio there. The 3-inch pipe is double the size of the 1.5 inch, but it leaves just enough space in there so that the air can get trapped and turn it on and off. And it'll work perfect if you build it that way. Um,
Okay.
Also, what you want to do is you'll notice there's a curved top on that bell. So when you put your fitting on there, your cap, get the one that has the curved top. And what you'll do is you'll cut your pipe off for the bell the exact same height as the stand pipe. So the stand pipe is sticking up, and you want to put your bell down there without the cap on it, and it should be at the exact same level as that standpipe.
Okay.
When you put the cap on, that's going to leave like a little 1/4-inch gap.
Just a little gap.
It just leaves a little gap there. And once that water starts pouring over in there, it'll cut that air off, and that siphon will start up, and it works like a champ every time. Now, there's another aspect of it as well. When you have your drain and it comes down, it can't just run straight down.
Okay.
You have to put an elbow down there. And if you look in that picture, I've got an elbow.
Yep.
You get a sharp elbow there because you don't, in this case, you want to bunch the water up in order to create the suction so that it can pull the air out. So by putting the sharp elbow in there, the water kind of bunches up in the corner of it, and it slows it down enough for the bell to start.
Okay. Now, can that stay the same diameter of the 1.5 inch?
Yeah, you want to keep that same dump out into whatever it is that you're doing on your main. So hold on a second. I may actually have a picture here showing the pipe coming out of the aquaponics bed. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So what I've done here is to dump straight out of my grow bed into the sump tank. and it's because I had this long sump tank that I had going underneath multiple beds. But now I've got that other tank over there on the side, and I'm trying to rotate the water. So what I've done is I took a 4-inch pipe and I just drilled a hole in it, and I dropped my 1.5-inch pipe elbow down in the hole. And I'll show you a picture of that here in just a second, as soon as it pops up here. All right, so you see that there?
Yeah.
So all I did is I took a 4-inch pipe, and I've got my 1.5-inch there with the elbow on it, and I just drilled a hole in the 4-inch pipe and just dropped it down in there.
Okay.
And you don't want to seal this thing up because you don't want to trap the air in that 4-inch pipe. You want the air to be able to breathe,
Right.
so that you won't have a problem there with that.
Okay.
But then that just runs down and it hits a long sweep elbow, and that long sweep elbow causes the water to start rotating it before it comes out of the end.
Okay. Very cool.
So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about.
You were talking about your book.
The information.
Well, you were talking a little bit about you have everything compiled into a book for people, and just we were talking about if you have that ready to be released, and are you going to set up some kind of like website for that or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm gonna eventually get to that. I've actually got domains bought up for that already for off-grid aquaponics, and so I just, I haven't done a website in so long that I don't know if I can remember how to do it. I really need some help with that.
Yeah, and we also talked about getting you set up on that Homesteaders Co-op, which is through Steam. And since you have a Steam account, you can get a shop set up on there pretty quick. So if you want to get that set up and you want me to help you walk you through it, I'm there for you anytime to get that PDF up there. I think it's really great information for people to really get started doing their own aquaponics systems.
Yeah.
Big Tom 13 says Amazon self-publishing is amazing. It's easy and really good as well.
I looked into Amazon, and at least the part that I saw, I didn't want to do because it turns over all rights to Amazon. In other words, they own it outright, and you have no say on where it sells, how it sells, what it sells for, or anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I immediately declined that as I was going through the process to publish it that way. And when I saw that, I said, nope, and backed out.
Yeah.
And just didn't do it.
I've also seen some. Sorry, go ahead.
I just don't want anybody being able to tell me where I can sell it, how much I can sell it for, when I can sell it. And then not only that, but they'll have promotion. Amazon will do promotions, and they'll require you to sell it for 99 cents or 79 cents, or even give it away. And you have no say over it. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's how Amazon got so.
Yeah.
Them and Facebook. As well, because anything that you post up there becomes their domain.
Right.
When you put pictures on Facebook, they retain the legal rights to use those pictures any way they want to. So,
yeah,
that's how they've got to be as big powerhouses like they are. So, no, I don't want to go that direction with it.
Yeah, you want to have it on your own domain and be able to
right
charge what you want.
I want to
for
set
it.
up my own website and have it on there, and then I can advertise all over the place, and folks can come up there Well, now Big Tom 13 says no, but they have two different programs on there, and the one where you get the most publicity is the one where they keep all the proceeds. Just about, I mean, they basically take like 70% of your sale, and have those stipulations in there too. So you can publish them a different way through there, and I didn't go down that road. I didn't look into it any further after I saw what they were doing on the other side. But
Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like there's different stipulations for that thing.
yeah, they do have differences. The ones where they put it up there and they publicize the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the one where they have their finger jabbed in your eye, you know. So
Yeah.
anyhow,
Anyhow, you want to do it on your own thing so that nobody's dictating
yeah,
anything to you on your own terms.
right. But you know, like I said, I do have that urbanite, PDF that would be ready to put out, and I think you had
Yeah, I did some
copy of that.
spell checking for you on that one, yeah. Even though I'm not the best spell checker, but I guess I'm another set of eyes that can kind of look at things. If you look at my posts on Steemit, you can tell how bad my English is. I only speak two languages, English and bad English. And I probably write worse than I speak too, so it's I'm working on it though. But having another set of eyes is always good and something.
I'm notorious for not catching that stuff.
Yeah. I've
But
heard.
well, what else can we talk about that's in the line of that? Any other questions or specific setup?
Yeah. So where can people mostly find you right now? I know. So you want to get those websites up, but you put out a lot of great information on Steemit under your name, Robbie Olson. Are you going to maybe put out some more content there, or are you going to try to stick with creating your
with
website?
Steemit, I need to put some stuff back up on. I need to put some stuff back up on Steemit. I've just been really busy on the new farm, getting things set up, and it's every day there's a project that has to be done, and so I've been bogged down with that. But I really need to take the time to do some more Steemit posts and get some things there. But you can go into the Steemit post now and look at some of the basic stuff that we've talked about here. I talk about pH and how to balance out some of the pH, and then talk about buffers, and they can even go into some biofiltration on one of them.
Yeah, you got some really good starting information there. Tariko says that is shaming you for not posting. But yeah, you're a busy guy. You stay really busy, so yeah, you need a social media. You need a social media promoter.
Well, yeah, that would be great.
Well, I'm there for you, and
sitting here looking. Yeah, I was just sitting here looking through some of the stuff that I got, and I've got a whole thing here on how to build bucket filters, and showing you how it's all put together.
yeah, I'm trying to come up with
a lot of content.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to come up with a way to kind of help make more projects happen myself, and just kind of thinking like, I'll put out all my free content here on Steemit, and it'll all be in the written blog format, but then I'll do like, specific walkthroughs if you want to get more in detail on a Patreon page for like a $2 a month tier or something like that, affordable, and do something like that.
That's something we should probably explore, doing something like that. Do some type of thing where we can have a membership, and then folks can get on there and go through the content, and then if they got questions, they can converse back and forth, and that might be a good way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Getting a little Discord set up for it, a little Discord server, and so people can, ask questions and come in there and chat and everything like that. That'd be great. I can help you get that going. So,
I'll have to get together one time, and I'll just have to set aside some time for it, and we'll.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I'll help you out. I'll help you get all that set up. I'm doing the same. I'm doing all the same stuff right now. Working on it, and it can grow in that regard together. What?
You're kind of in the same situation in the process of moving yourself.
Yep. And getting all these similar things set up, and I'm a new entrepreneur. You've been working for yourself for a long time. This year is my first foray into getting into this. So Big Tom 13 says he's got a good friend that can help you build a membership site really quick. So I'll have to get with you, Big Tom. That'd be cool. If it's really cheap.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, man. We both need it. I got a little bit of a start, but I am definitely in need for some help. So it would be great. I'll look into that with you. I ain't going nowhere, Torrico. I'm right here. I'm Mount Steamit, and I'll be. My idea is to just get some more. Moving. Yeah, I'm moving down to my homestead property, and it's that property I bought a few years ago, and I finally sold. I got my house sold. I closed on that, and it's all sold. I got the. They gave me the check. They paid off the mortgage. It's gone from my hands now, and I'm gonna take that. I got that to get me really started full time on the homestead property, and gonna be going full time as a homesteader. I'm that's where I'm moving. I'm moving down to kind of a little bit closer to where Robbie is living right now. And it's
you're
right around Coleman, Alabama. Yeah, right around Coleman, Alabama. It's going to be by Smith Lake, and so there's some. It's a big part of my life. It's a big new step in my life, and it's exciting. So I'll be down there full time homesteading, living out of that solar trailer I built, proving that out, and so that'll be an interesting journey that you guys can follow along.
I just threw a picture up there of a build of a solar water heater.
Cool. Yeah.
Check that. So I use that in my aquaponics too in the wintertime. You'll have a small little pump, and you have this thing painted black here underneath the glass. And these things work better than electric water heaters. So if you've got a system that you want to keep the water heated up, build you a little solar water heater, because you're going to get a lot more out of that than you would sticking some little heater down in the water.
Oh yeah, man, that was a big deal for me this last season. Was I was eating up power on my electric bill at the city house because I had to run. I really didn't plan out my heating system for this winter. And I only had a single layer greenhouse, a single layer of plastic greenhouse. And I had to supplement the heat with I used an old waterbed heater, and I used one of those little ceramic heaters focused on the fish tank, and then insulated the fish tank. And I had to run those 24/7 to keep the fish from getting too cold. And so my electric bill was double, like every month. So, yeah, the solar water heating is super important for the aquaponics systems in the winter.
Yeah, depending on where you are geographically, I suppose if you were in Florida or something, it wouldn't be a big deal. But here where we're at, you have to maintain that water temperature. That's another thing about the biology with aquaponics too, is if the water temperature gets down below 55, the beneficial bacteria will either go dormant or they will die. And so you want to keep your water above 55 degrees at all time. And so what I've done is I put my fish tanks inside. I've got a little room, an insulated room that I've got in my barn. I've got the greenhouse attached to it. And the reason why I had that small tank that I put up there to start with, see if I can find it again here, this one right here. Had the 3 barrels. Is the last barrel operates as a temporary sump tank so that I can turn the water off from outside and keep it inside and keep the water warm. If you run it on the outside out there, you'll lose all your heat. And this right here, you can see this is my 3rd barrel. It's off in the off position because we're in the summertime, but in the wintertime, if I want to, if the greenhouse is not warm enough or we have one of those real cold nights, I can turn off the valve up there at the top and then turn on the valve right there over the water barrel and keep the water flowing inside the little area right there so that the fish stay good and warm. The plants can take the colder water, but the fish can't. So, and the bacteria can't. So you can isolate it off like that and let your plants do their thing and the fish do their thing for a couple of days until it's warmer. So
Yeah, so Big Tom said he's out in Arizona, and they got no problem with the heat out there. So he'd probably be a pretty good candidate for aquaponics.
yeah, I imagine not. Yeah, he'll probably just want to have a shade house there. He probably don't even get the need for a greenhouse. He could just have it, you know.
Yeah. So the Arizona winters don't get that bad, huh? Yeah. So
I don't know. I know they've had some crazy weather, you know, out in New Mexico and that area around there the last several months. So who knows?
yeah, Big Tom says he's thought about it, but he's got a motorcycle to ride. I hear you on that, man. You got to have it. That's got to be a beautiful place to go ride your motorcycle.
So, well, I know
what else
covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we're coming up on the end of the show. I know one of the other cool things you got going for yourself recently is you got one of those portable sawmills.
Oh yeah. Well, Wood Miser LT40.
Yeah.
And you know, me and a buddy of mine got that thing because, you know, we're going to do the homesteading deal, and let's face it, lumber's expensive. And so, but now I'm not going over here and just chopping down every tree on my property or anything like that. But in the area where we live, there's quite a bit of storm damage every year during the summer. And there's people all the time just throwing away trees. So, as a matter of fact, I've got to go pick one up next week. There's a guy right up the road that's got this big, massive tree right here. Let me throw this picture.
Yeah, I saw
big
some
poplar tree.
Yeah, I saw some of those.
Come and get it.
Oh man, that's killer. Yeah, I saw some of those first cuts. You sent me some pictures from that, and and it looks like you can make some awesome tabletops. I see these tabletops all over the place, where they're just the rough cut of the tree, and you just sand them down, and you put some several coats of polyurethane on them, and put some cast iron piping on it, and create some legs for it, and you can create these cool looking bar tops, and yeah, you could get those going pretty well too.
Oh yeah, and you're talking about a live edge table.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, they're nice. Yeah, they really are. With this, we can cut up to 28 inches in width. We could put like a 32-inch tree on there, and then cut the round part off and flip it around. But we could do square up to 28 inches. But what you can do is cut a slice out of your log, and then take a piece of lumber and splice it together to make it wider. So,
Yeah.
But look at that big massive tree right there.
Dang, that's a big one.
Yeah, that thing is 102 inches around, and the guy says, "Come and get it," and he's got another one just gonna give it to me, just for. And then another guy called me the other day. He's got 30 large 80-foot pine trees that he's having cut down off of his property.
Yeah.
And the tree company don't want to haul them off. They're just going to cut them down and cut them to length and cut up the limbs. And he told me just come and get it. So I've got 30 pine trees that are, 22-inch diameter, that he's going to cut into 16-foot lengths for me. And I'm just going to go down there and he's going to load it on my trailer and everything.
Wow.
It's just amazing. I mean, and it's just free lumber.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
So you're gonna be operating a small lumber operation as well.
Yeah, I'm probably just I'm gonna make a lot of stuff for myself to start with, but then when I get over into using it to make some money, I'm probably gonna make like specialty beams, people.
Cool. Cool.
They could bring their tree. I've got a guy that's going to bring his cedar trees over here, and we're just going to charge him by the board foot to cut it. But
that's exciting, man.
Yeah, it's a way to use some of the resources that are just laying around that people just normally throw out. And I just like this big tree, that I put up there. I just couldn't imagine cutting that thing up into little sections and burning it.
Yeah. Yeah, that poplar, I guess people don't generally use that for lumber, right? But it probably work really well for like a barn or something.
Yeah, I'm going to use it here. I'm going to build a covered awning, and I'm going to make it all out of that poplar. I'm going to have 6x6 poplar post, 4x6 beams, and even have the rafters made out of it and everything, and then stain it.
Oh yeah.
And just use that poplar. It's free wood. So
heck yeah. Can't argue with free. Well, Robbie, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Is there anything you'd like to leave with the audience today? We're coming up on the end of the show today, and I really appreciate your time to come on and share your knowledge about aquaponics with the audience, and thank you again for being here.
It's not a problem. I'm just, if you're interested in doing some aquaponics, the only thing I could tell you is to, just be patient with it. It is a learning curve, and you can go to that Steemit, my Steemit stuff, and look at the basics. They kind of give you a basic outline of how the stuff works together. And then, my email, you could email me or making stuff, either one. And I'll see about getting you a copy of the book. And my email is Robbie, ROBBIE, Olson, OLSON, @hotmail. So no numbers or anything. I've had that email for about 20 years. So everybody asked me, how do I get an email? And that's how.
Very cool. Well, is it robbieolson@hotmail.com?
Yeah,
All right.
that's it. So,
All right.
but
Great.
really not hard to find, and you can have a lot of growth, a lot of abundance.
Absolutely.
So, all right, man, I appreciate it, and you guys take care.
Thank you so much, buddy. It was really a pleasure having you on the show. Everybody stay tuned. Up next, we got Crimson Clad's Team Wave Saturday. Thank you all for coming and joining in on the show today. I really appreciate you guys and all the interaction to all the great questions for the show. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. It was wonderful hanging out with you on this fine day. And we'll be back next week with the Meadows and Makers podcast with more great content for you. So, y'all hang out, and we'll have Crimson Clad coming right up. Thank you again for joining. We'll see you next week. This is Awake by Devon and Junk Feathers.